Hi everyone, I'm Wang, a PhD candidate in Dr. Lily's group at the University of Pittsburgh. The topic of my presentation today is nanometer-thick fluorinated ion liquids as media lubricants in hard disk drives. In a hard disk drive, the magnetic head flies about 7 to 10 nanometer above the media surface. It is of the similar scale of an airplane flying about the size of a hair above the ground. Engineers are working on further reducing the magnetic spacing to increase the aerial density. As it has been very fast and too close to the media surface, nanometer-thick lubricant needs to be applied on the media surface to reduce direct head-media contact and protect the media from wear. There are several requirements for media lubricants. They need to have good mobility, low surface tension, and high thermal stability, and they need to be nanometer-thick to ensure high aerial density. The minimum thickness of the lubricant is largely determined by the monolayer of the molecule. However, there are issues with the state-of-the-art perfluoropolyether lubricant. The monolayer thickness is relatively high as it scales with the radius of gyration of the molecule, and the chemical is also very expensive. Ionic liquids have the opportunity to be the next generation media lubricant because of their excellent physical properties. They are usually liquid at room temperature, and they are cheaper than perfluoropolyethers. The chemical structure can be tailored to achieve low surface tension. They have negligible volatility and excellent thermal stability, which is important for their durability. The size of ion pairs are also smaller, which provides opportunity to achieve thinner monolayer. Ionic liquids also form layering structures when confined on solid, such as amorphous carbon and mica, similar to the low friction of graphite due to the layering. The layering of ion liquid could help it to be a good lubricant. The objective of our work is to develop ion liquid-based lubricants with high thermal stability, low monolayer thickness, and low surface tension. In phase 1, we first demonstrated the potential of commercially available ion liquid to achieve lower thickness by understanding the film structure, and then we evaluated thermal, tribology, and other properties of the ion liquid lubricant. To further improve its performance, in phase 2, we designed the molecular structure of a target ion liquid. We synthesized the target ion liquid, and we analyzed its performance as media lubricant. In the current work, we compare the performance of perfluoropolyether and ion liquid for applications as media lubricants. The perfluoropolyether used is Z-tetrol with a radius of gyration of 1.5 nanometer. The ionic liquid used is commercially available BMM-FAP with an imidazolame cation and a fluorinated anion. If the molecule is assumed to be a cube, the diameter is calculated to be 0.84 nanometer from the molecular weight and the density. We first compared their thermal stability. The TGA results show that BMM-FAP has higher thermal stability because of the strong electrostatic interaction of the ion pairs. We use carbon overcoat as a solid substrate as it is the state-of-the-art substrate for media lubricants in the hard drive industry. The nanometer-thick films were applied on carbon overcoat by deep coating, which is important in the hard drive industry for making large area nanofilms. The Z-tetrol and BMFAP solutions were made by dissolving them in fluoropentane at various concentrations. During deep coating, the substrates were vertically submerged in and then withdrawn from the solution at a constant rate. The film formation results from both absorption that contributes to the bounded part and viscous flow that contributes to the mobile part. The thickness measurement was conducted with an ellipsometer. The plots show that the film thickness increased linearly with the concentration within the investigated range. Researchers previously found that the Z-tetrol nanofilms on carbon overcoat are smooth, below a critical dewetting thickness, and rough above a critical dewetting thickness, which is confirmed by the optical surface analyzer. The dark spots in the bottom image are lubricant droplets. They also found that the surface free energy initially decreases due to the bonding between hydroxyl groups and the carbon overcoat surface. When the film is thicker than the critical dividing thickness, the surface free energy starts to increase due to the hydroxyl group interaction within the perfluoro polyether. Based on the previous findings, we developed a new method to determine the monolayer thickness with AFM. Under AFM, the nanometer-thick films are smooth initially. When the film thickness increases, dewetting starts to occur. More quantitatively, we studied the change of root mean square surface roughness with the nanofilm thickness as shown in this plot. For Z-tetrol, the thinner nanofilms are very smooth. A sharp increase in roughness is then observed when the films are thicker than 1.6 nanometer. So the monolayer thickness is determined as 1.6 nanometer for Z-tetrol. This is also consistent with the about 1.5 nanometer radius of gyration of the molecule. For ionic liquid, the nanofilms are thinner than 0.8 nanometer monolayer thickness, are smooth. Here, the smooth layering is due to the pi-pi stacking between the imidazolate cation and the sp2 carbon on the carbon overcoat surface. The roughness then starts to increase with a decrease at the thickness of 1.7 nanometer. We conclude this is the thickness of tuned monolayer. The dewetting of thicker ion liquids due to the stronger cohesion interaction within the ion liquid molecules. The 0.8 nanometer monolayer thickness of ion liquid is also consistent with the 0.84 nanometer diameter calculated from the cubic model. So we conclude that the monolayer thickness of BMFAP is only about half of the monolayer thickness of Z-tetrol. The monolayer thickness determined by the AFM surface roughness results are supported by the friction results. The friction coefficient were measured by the nanotribology testing. For Z-tetrol, the friction coefficient decreases with the increase of film thickness until the steady regime for films thicker than 1.6 nanometer monolayer thickness. For BMFAP, the friction coefficient decreases with the increase of film thickness until the steady regime for films thicker than 0.8 nanometer monolayer thickness. Both roughness results and friction results demonstrate that the ion liquid has the potential to reduce the lubricant thickness. However, the friction of the ion liquid is slightly higher than Z-tetrol. To understand why the friction of BMFAP is higher, we first study the bonding of the nanofilms by solvent washing. The washing process is similar to deep coating. Here we use pure solvent to wash the nanofilms. The bonding ratio was calculated based on the thickness before and after washing. We observed a reasonable bonding for Z-tetrol, while the bonding ratio for the ion liquid is almost zero. Less bonding means more mobile part and more direct solid-solid contact, which results in higher friction. In the current work, we developed a novel method to determine the monolayer thickness of nanofilms based on the AFM surface roughness results. We found that the monolayer thickness of ion liquids is significantly reduced compared to perfluoro polyether. Our results indicate that ion liquids are promising candidates for the next generation media lubricants of hard disk drives. However, we found that the friction of ion liquids is slightly higher than perfluoro polyether. The first reason is the weaker bonding of the commercially available ion liquid on the carbon overcoat surface. And the second reason is the higher surface tension measured by the pendant drop analysis. So our objective in phase 2 is to reduce the surface tension of the ion liquid lubricant. And our strategy is to add a fluorinated alkyl chain in the ionic liquid cation. We perform a two-step reaction to get a fluorinated ion liquid, FIL. The first step is an SN2 reaction, where the nitrogen atom on the imidazolate ring attacks the carbon near the aldehyde atom to force aldehyde to leave. So the highly fluorinated alkyl chain with the hydroxyl group is added on the aromatic ring. The second step is a metathesis reaction, where the NTF2 anion replaces the aldehyde anion to form FAL. The protein NMR result indicates the successful synthesis. From pendant job analysis, we determine FAL has a surface tension of 24.5 millinewton per meter, which is much lower than BMFAP and comparable with PFP zeta. PGA results show that FAL has better thermal stability than PFP Z-tetrol. Based on the change of surface roughness with nanofilm thicknesses, we conclude that the monolayer thickness of FAL is only about 0.9 nanometer, significantly lower than the monolayer of Z-tetrol. While FAL has excellent thermal stability, low monolayer thickness, and low surface tension, it has almost zero bonding ratio due to no functional groups. The friction is slightly lower than commercially available liquid, but higher than Z-tetrol. To enhance the bonding of FAL to the carbon overcoat surface, we plan to add hydroxyl groups in the liquid molecule in our future plan. We'd like to acknowledge financial support from Advanced Storage Technology Consortium, and thank you all for listening. Please feel free to email me with any questions.